This is the Convene podcast. My name is Maggie, Digital Media Editor. As Earth's average global temperature rises, the number of extreme weather events, including drenching rain, severe floods, and heat waves, is climbing too. A new research report documents the effect of extreme weather on a full year of events of all kinds in Canada. How Extreme Weather is Impacting Events, written and read by Barbara Palmer, Deputy Editor of Convene.
On April 16th, 10 inches of rain fell in Dubai, the same day that journalist Sandra Lutz arrived in the city to cover Token 2049, one of two cryptocurrency conferences scheduled that week, drawing thousands of visitors to the city. Lutz got a minor taste of the apocalypse, he wrote in Decrypt Media, as flooding turned the city's streets into rivers, making them impassable by most vehicles and shutting down the trains that connect the airport to the rest of Dubai. Token 2049 events were canceled on that day because the conference exhibit hall was flooded. Blockchain Life 2024, scheduled to start the next day on April 17th, delayed its opening. Meanwhile, conference attendees posted accounts of hour-long waits for airport taxis. Event organizers always have had to factor in weather when they plan events, but Dubai's record-breaking downpour on April 16th was more than just another rainy day. Scientists at World Weather Attribution, an academic collaboration that calculates the impact of climate change on extreme events such as heat waves, storms, and droughts, determined that the storms that hit the UAE in April, including Dubai, were amplified by the rise in the average surface temperature of the Earth. According to NASA scientists writing on the U.S. agency's website, as the planet warms, record-breaking heat waves on land and in the ocean, drenching rains, severe floods, years-long droughts, extreme wildfires, and widespread flooding during hurricanes are all becoming more frequent and more intense. And all of the risks, they say, from these extreme weather events will escalate the more the planet warms. Those risks are becoming real for event organizers in Canada and elsewhere, said event sustainability expert Shauna McKinley, principal at Clear Current Consulting in Vancouver, Canada, who's tracking extreme weather and its impact on events. In addition to consulting for clients, including TED and the Canadian Medical Association, McKinley's taught a class about sustainable event management operations at the British Columbia Institute of Technology for the last decade. McKinley initially began building a database filled with case studies of events disrupted by extreme weather for her class to discuss. And as students have asked deeper questions about how climate change affects events and what they can expect in the future, McKinley's data collection and analysis has grown more extensive, she told Convene. Last year, in an effort to give her students a greater sense of the scope and scale of extreme weather's impact on events and how it could impact the future, McKinley decided to conduct an in-depth analysis of events in Canada that were disrupted by extreme weather in 2023. Her research asked two questions, McKinley wrote in the report, Extreme Weather and Event Planning Risks in Canada, which was published in May. The question was, how are events being affected by unusual and severe weather in Canada, and how are event organizers responding? By monitoring both weather and media reports, McKinley found and recorded 72 events in 2023 that were canceled or partially canceled, relocated, postponed, or otherwise impacted in a notable way by extreme weather. The kinds of weather that emerged in the data included heat waves, as well as unseasonably high temperatures that impacted winter events, storms, flooding, fire and smoke from wildfires, and extreme cold. In 2023, Canada's fire season was the most destructive ever recorded. Nearly 46 million acres burned, a staggering record compared to a typical year when 6 million acres are lost to fire, resulted in travel bans and evacuation orders in some parts of the country, McKinley wrote in the report. Of the 72 events affected by extreme weather, 52 were attributed to fire or smoke from wildfires. Events disrupted by storms, 9 events, and heat, 6 events, were a distant second and third, although some events did have multiple weather-related causes, such as both heat and smoke. Most of the disrupted events, 32%, were outdoor special events. Sporting events were 29%, and festivals were 25%. There was only one weather-disrupted business event recorded in the report, but that should not be taken as evidence that business events are less impacted by extreme weather than other events. The kinds of extreme weather experienced, as well as the location and timing of events, have an impact on the data in any given year, McKinley said. For example, Hurricane Fiona, which hit the Atlantic coast of Canada in September 2022, resulted in 19 event disruptions, business events among them. Business events make up 8% of the case studies in McKinley's entire database, which includes unpublished data about events outside of Canada and is not comprehensive, she said. But of the 67 reports of business events disrupted by extreme weather between 2000 and 2024, in the collection, the vast majority, 96%, were disrupted by named storms or extreme rainfall. None of the disruptions were caused directly by extreme heat, McKinley noted, but heat as global warming has been verified to contribute to the intensity of many storms and the floods that have been the primary cause of business event disruption. In addition to collecting quantitative data about where and why events were disrupted in Canada in 2023, McKinley's research included interviews with 19 of the affected event organizers to talk to them about risk and emergency management, the financial impact of the disruptions, how they made decisions, and other topics. Most of the organizers who were interviewed feel that risks from weather are increasing in frequency and causing greater losses, McKinley wrote in a summary of the research that she posted on LinkedIn. They also agree that the operating environment for events has become more uncertain, due at least in part to extreme weather incidents. All of the organizers who were interviewed had emergency response procedures in place that enabled them to react to weather incidents, and several said the pandemic had helped them to be better prepared. But with the incidence of smoke and heat-related disruptions rising, decision-making has gotten more complex. When there's a travel ban, McKinley said, it's really clear that the event is being called off. But organizers reported more anxiety, understandably, about the need to make decisions to cancel when their events experienced air quality warnings or alerts, but they weren't subject to mandatory weather orders or travel bans. It's putting a lot of pressure on the organizers to make high-stakes decisions, McKinley said. And it's happening, in Canada anyway, year after year after year. All of the event organizers faced financial losses. A few were able to roll over supplier deposits or to keep materials for future events, but several faced significant cancellation penalties and losses related to food and wasted event supplies. Only one of the 19 interviewees had insurance that covered losses, McKinley said. Insurance coverage for fire and smoke disruptions, which was what most of the event organizers faced in 2023, was either not available to the organizers or the premiums and deductibles were so high that insurance was cost prohibitive, she said. In response, some of the event organizers were changing how they selected destinations to take the impact of potential extreme weather into account. Others had decided to shift the timing of their events to avoid weather risks, she wrote in their report. Other event organizers decided to take a breather. Nimble Fingers, a 2-decades-old music workshop and festival held annually in Sorrento, British Columbia, announced that the festival would be taking a break in 2024. The past few years have brought unprecedented challenges, including the impacts of the pandemic and wildfires, which have profoundly affected our ability to produce a safe and enjoyable event, the organizers wrote in a statement. With 3 of the last 4 years canceled due to circumstances outside of our control, we need a year to recover and regroup. For some events, weather-related cancellations took away opportunities that may not come again. The annual Canadian Table Tennis Championship had been scheduled to take place in 2023 in Hay River, a town of 3,800 people in Canada's Northwest Territories and the homeland of the Dene Indigenous people. Then wildfires forced a month-long evacuation of the town and the cancellation of the event. Organizers had planned a festival that would include Dene games, blending modern and indigenous culture. Host destination Hay River lost out on the revenues hosting the event would have generated. And something deeper. The loss of community growth and the opportunity to host a national event, which is possibly more acutely felt than the economic cost, McKinley's report said. The event was not just about sport. It was about culture exchange and economic benefit to remote communities, McKinley told Convene. And that, to me, just really hits home, the personal stories of these situations. As much as there's financial strife, what every organizer expressed is real despair about not living up to the potential of what they were wanting to deliver. McKinley's research also caused her to reflect on the gatherings and community events that she herself missed during the pandemic, she said, and to consider, what if I never could go to any of these events again because I can't travel, or because they're disrupted by weather, or because they're no longer financially tenable because the insurance rates are too high? Having gone through the COVID-19 pandemic and seen how damaging it was to the event sector and what we do, I feel like it was an extreme dress rehearsal for the slower impact that climate change will have on us if we don't do anything about it, McKinley said. It's given me a sense of what is at stake.
If you enjoyed this episode, do give us a 5-star review and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. For more industry insights, visit pcma.org/convene. Until next time.